Hey guys, this is John Scarborough. Today I want to build a Joe Salatin style chicken house is what I want to do, or a chicken coop is what I want to do. A little chicken tractor is, I guess, the way they call it. And I'm going to use these trees. I'm going to make me. These are all trees. These are actually, that's a tree that I cut off my place. It was struck by lightning, and it was actually going to die anyway, and it was in a really bad spot. This is a tree that was in a bad spot. It just wasn't in a good spot at all for where it was, so we cut that one down and harvested it. And then this one right here was actually done by a tree service and was going to go to a landfill. So we're going to turn trees that was going to get thrown away and wasn't going to get used for anything. We're going to turn that into a Joe Salatin style chicken house or chicken tractor. So stay tuned, guys. Got some pine in there now. Started out with some oak. Got the oak boards laying over there. Fixing to cut up some pine ones for it. Alright, we got her all cut up now. I used the knottiest pine that I could find, the worst piece I had, to do this because I knew exactly where it was going. One thing about knotty pine is it makes for wavy lumber and just lots of different problems and issues. But like I said, I know exactly where it's going, so this makes a really good spot for it. Alright, so we're carrying on here. We've got all of our lumber cut. We did white oak along the bottom. I'm pretty sure it's white oak. Looking at the trees that we cut it from, it's got a little more character than I'm used to with white oak. But anyway, so we used the white oak on the bottom, and that's just to help with the rot resistance. Otherwise I probably would have used a treated lumber or something, but I mean that's quite expensive right now, and I've got the sawmill. So we did that, and then I sawed all of this green pine up. And then these are white oak as well. We did use white oak on that. Anything that goes down to the ground at all, we used white oak. I never used a square, never used anything. Not worried about anything like that, not on something like this. And I say that, you're sitting there looking at a square, because I actually did use a square on one spot. I used a square right there to make sure this is straight up and down, because there will be a door on this side, so we want it to be somewhere close. But for the most part, I'm just eyeballing everything. And you can tell what I did here. I actually came out and 45'd, so came out a little bit farther on the edge, and then I 45'd the bottom board all the way across there, and then I put a little bit of a 45 on the backboard. You can't hardly see it, but that just gives it a little bit, helps to slide over any objects is the hope. I've made several sleds for the farm before, and that seems to be what works the absolute best, rather than having that square edge come in and hit that. And then of course we're going to use as much pine as we possibly can, simply because pine is lighter than oak by quite a bit. When I'm picking at these two boards, they both were cut. Both these trees were cut pretty close to the same time, so they're the same amount green. And we are using green lumber here. Normally I would want to dry it for a little bit before I ever did this, but we kind of ran out of time on this, so we're going ahead and using some green lumber because it's all we've got. So that's what we'll do. That's going to be a video for another day. We'll talk more about that and why we ran out of time. So you'll just have to watch the other video once it comes out. But anyway, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make this. We're making it 8 by 8, and we're gonna use as much pine as possible to make it as light as possible. But we're using oak, white oak along the bottom. Hopefully that will give us more durability as far as something that will last longer. So anyway, there it is with the braces. You can tell I put some up and down braces right here. The reason I did them this direction is because in my thinking, when I'm pushing right here, when I'm pulling, I'll be pulling from the bottom. All that pressure is going to be shoving that backward, like the bottom backward. And when that happens, it causes the top to want to shift forward like that. So to me, by taking and running it this way rather than running it the other way, I shove all of that tension into the very center and then shove it back into the bottom like that. That's my thinking on that. Because if I go the other way, then when it shoves in there, then you're actually putting your tension on your screws, your fasteners, rather than on your lumber. I like to keep my tension on the wood. That way the wood takes all the load and never the fastener. Another thing that I did that I think is probably necessary is I put these cross pieces in there. You can see I did them all the way around over there. I feel like that's necessary because, again, we're pulling this way on this. And then I put all of these braces kind of across the center. This is a door that we made. Got to get my hinges on there. But that works pretty good. There's the braces again on that side. Like I said, I'd use oak for the whole bottom and then oak on every single up and down strut. I don't know that I would have had to do the oak on that, but I felt like the oak or something treated or some cedar or something that's going to last longer on the bottom was definitely necessary. But anyway, and then we ran another one right across the middle there, and then we tied in here, tied them in together. And I'll show you where we did that. And I just went off, offset. So there's my center line. So I put this board fastened to that side of the center, and then this board fastened to this side of the center. Since there's no pressure for this, all the pressure on this is up and down, just from the roof sitting on top of it. There's no drag pressure on the roof. The drag pressure is on your bottom. So I didn't have to worry about offsetting that because, there's no concern there with that. The very best way to do that union is actually to notch halfway up on this bottom board and then halfway up on the other board, and then you just slide them in together. That's the best way to do it, but this works fine for a lot of different things. I've even seen, I've been on some construction jobs where we've even done some flooring this way. When we did our pier and beam floor, we would put that in like that, and that worked just fine for that. But anyway, so for a chicken coop, that's plenty fine. But I think this is going to work out good. Tried to make sure we put our supports in such a way where all of the places, where all of the pressure is directly on the wood and not on the fastener. So I think that is very important when you're building something, especially when you're building something that's going to get ricked and racked, if I can say it like that. That's getting moved all around. I mean, you're dragging this thing, you're abusing this thing, you're pulling pressure this way, and then you're going to turn this way and turn that way. And so there's all sorts of different pressure coming from different ways. So I think it's extremely important, if you want this thing to last for longer, to make sure that the pressure isn't on the fastener. It's always on from wood to wood. Okay. But anyway, we'll come back here in just a second when we get all of our tin and stuff on there. All right, guys, there it is. There's the finished product. It's been a couple of weeks now. I wanted to wait until after we got the birds on it and until after we've actually used it for just a little bit before I put my finished video out there. That way y'all can actually not only kind of see how I did it, but hear my thoughts on it, on what I'm thinking so far. It works pretty good. I like it. It's 8x8. We attach the rope there. I can drag it easily myself, without any four-wheeler, without any dolly in the back. I can drag it fairly easily. I'm even able to drag it with the waterer hanging from the middle. I made it hang from the middle, that way it will kind of level itself out if you get on uneven ground. Seems to work okay. But anyway, so if usually I just take that waterer off of there and I can drag it. Savannah has a little bit of trouble dragging it by herself, so we'll see how that works. Worst case, we'll just make her a dolly, and kind of let it go from there, you know. I think it turned out really well. If I did anything different, so you can see here, what I've always been taught with chicken wire is to fold that, so that way you've got more to fasten to, more wire there to fasten to, because it's not all that stout. But if I did it again, I think I would do what I did here on the bottom, where you sandwich the wire together, because we kind of did that in the aftermath. But I think what I would do is, rather than using 2x4s, I would use 1x4s to build the whole frame, and then I would put the wire on there, and then I would sandwich it with another 1x4. That way you've got the same thickness. You end up with the same thickness of lumber all the way around, but your wire is significantly stouter, and I think it would be quite a bit easier, and it would probably look a little bit better to do that. So I think we will go that route next time. Like I said, we never did put the front braces in there. I haven't seen it necessary. I will let y'all know as we go if it becomes necessary. All I got to do is throw them in there. It's not that difficult to put them in later on. But I wanted to try making it as light as possible. That way, if it's possible to avoid using the dolly, we could. So that's kind of what I did. My thought is the bracing needed to be across this way for sure, but not necessarily this way. So we'll try it. So y'all see, I did not use tin. Someone actually gave me some trailer house. It's siding. It goes across the bottom of it for the air to keep like stuff out from under the trailer house. I kind of didn't like it because it kind of looked a little tacky to me. I figured it would. It turned out looking better than I thought it would. Still probably doesn't look quite as good as I'd like it to. But I went ahead and used it partially so we can try it out and just see. She's been running all out in the dew. But anyway, so I really did end up liking it. All these cracks that you see is actually just from the weed eater. It's actually still got a lot of flexibility in it. So it's got some good UV protection in it. It stays very, very cool. It does not absorb that heat very much. It's significantly cooler on this side than it is on that side. We've actually tested it on a hot day. Before I ever put the birds in there, I actually climbed in there one day when it was real hot, and I touched the ground on both sides. Quite a bit cooler. So that part is working good. It's got air ventilation deals right here, so you will have to seal that off. But we actually tested it, and it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be before we sealed it off. But I like the air ventilation on the side. I really like that for good airflow. So anyway, that ended up being free for us. So this whole deal, since I do use the sawmill lumber and everything, I mean, it cost us less than $10 to build. I even used the lumber to build that thing right there. That's 3 foot. I kind of wish I would have made it 4 foot now, because not all the birds seem to be able to get all the way around it. So I may make that 4 foot. And I did not put hinges on my door yet, because I'm not sure yet how I want to do it. Y'all notice that I only covered half of it, whereas a lot of people will cover their door. That way they can cover the feed on their door, so they can cover their feed with their door. But I'm kind of considering either not putting hinges on it at all and just picking the whole door up and moving it over. That actually works pretty good. Or hinging it right there and picking it up from here. That way I can lay my feed just underneath there, and I've got less cover. Because I kind of like the idea of only having half of it covered rather than 3/4 of it covered. Just so the birds have the opportunity to get out in the sun if they want to, or they can get in the shade. Rather than only having this 1/4 to have sunlight. Anyway, that's kind of what I did. I won't drag this video out too long. I just kind of wanted to show y'all. I will have some more updates along the way. I did cut a couple extra boards. That way, if there's any, you can see I slid that underneath there. If you have any little dips in your ground or potholes or anything like that, it's not that hard. You just slide it under there. And you can just either leave the extra ones laying up here, or you can just kind of move them as you go. And you can kind of see where we've gone. I think you can kind of see that. You can see where we started. We started right here. So that was 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and that's 4 days. And then today is actually day 5, and I'll move them over into there. So far, but anyway, we'll do another video on that. I just wanted to let y'all kind of see how the build went and how we like it. So far, we do like it. It's not the best, I don't think. I think it could definitely have some improvements, but I think I like it pretty good. So, thanks, guys.